Hey YouTube, Matches 860. The Friday Savinelli with some haunted bookshop. Got a couple of haunted lighthouse stories for you today. There must be hundreds or thousands of haunted lighthouses around the country. But I decided to pick two from right here in New England. The first one is from the Penfield Reef Lighthouse off the Connecticut coast, Long Island Sound. And that lighthouse was built in 1874, and in 1916 the lighthouse keeper was Frederick Jordan. Around December 22nd, Frederick decided he was going to go to the mainland, meet up with his family for the holidays. And they made arrangements for a substitute backup keeper to take care of things while he was gone. So Fred got in his little dinghy, started making the trek across Long Island Sound. And there was a storm that really got bad, and the backup lighthouse keeper was kind of keeping an eye on Fred and noticed that he was having a lot of trouble, and finally the dinghy foundered. The lighthouse keeper tried to get into another boat to save him, but the weather was just too nasty. So they found Fred's body a day or two later, floating around. And about 2 weeks later, the substitute keeper was now the main lighthouse keeper. Started seeing apparitions of Fred going up and down the lighthouse stairs. Heard footsteps. But the strangest thing was that the lighthouse keeper would enter something in the logbook, and when he'd return a couple of days later, or when he'd return to the logbook, the page would always be opened back up to the day that Frederick was lost at sea there. So the ghost of Fred kept haunting this lighthouse for years after. Various lighthouse keepers reported the apparitions and strange occurrences. In 1942, there were a couple of boys in a small boat a few hundred yards from the lighthouse. Their boat foundered, and it looked like they were going to drown. They were totally exhausted. The next thing they knew, they were being pulled by somebody over to the ledge of the lighthouse. And when they got a little more energy, they went up to the lighthouse to thank the lighthouse keeper for saving them. And of course they didn't recognize him. They were shown a picture of Frederick Jordan, and both of the boys positively identified him as the person that dragged them over to the rocks of the lighthouse. Pretty strange. Next story is one of my favorites. Island off the coast of Maine. Seguin Island, I believe, is how it's pronounced. You got to look at this on Google Maps. It's off the coast, Bath, Maine, quite a ways out, and that one was built in 1795. Had numerous upgrades during the 1800s, and it was in the early 1800s that there was a lighthouse keeper there. Wasn't able to find his name, but he took care of the lighthouse, and his wife joined him, which is unusual. Most of these lighthouse keepers were single, because it was a 24/7 job, and there wasn't much for women to do out on an island, and such was the case with this couple. The wife quickly became bored taking care of the house and doing laundry and dishes, while her husband toiled with the upkeep of the light. He felt really bad because she was bored all the time. She had mentioned before that she always wanted to learn to play the piano. So at Christmas time, he ordered her a piano. And if you take a look at how this island is put together, I don't know how they got a piano there, but they got a piano there. Piano came with one sheet of music, one song. His wife was tickled pink. She sat down and started to learn how to play this one song. Took her a few weeks, but she finally learned the song. She played it day and night. Well, you can imagine. Poor lighthouse keeper, that's all he heard. Finally drove him crazy. One day he grabbed an axe, started beating on the piano, destroying it. He totally snapped and started axing his wife to death. When he came to his senses, he commits suicide. And they say to this day that when there are ships nearby this lighthouse or people wandering around the island, they can hear that song and the piano playing. Those are my two haunted lighthouse stories. Thanks an awful lot for watching. We'll catch you next time.